Hey, what are you doing in there?
Either stay in prison or go home and get your freedom and dialyze at the comfort of your home with your friends, your family, and your pets. So contact us today at info@primohealthcareservices.com. info@primohealthcareservices.com. Email us today.
Yes.
Welcome to the E&T Show. Let's go home on a Saturday. It's 1:30. Thank you for joining us. We are in a new location here. New location, hanging out by the fire. It's a little chilly, so we promised we'd be here on Saturday, and we are. And we're going to heat it up. Let me introduce myself, if you guys don't know. Eric Gonzalez. I've been a patient for 8 years. I did all phases of dialysis, and I'm on my last treatment phase as a transplant recipient. I've been a recipient for a little over 8.5 months, so I'm still learning. So once I have a better understanding of the body change and the medication, I can go in more depth and talk about transplant. So right now, I'm still leaving that blank because I still have a lot of interest on it. But when I first got introduced to dialysis, I always picked home dialysis. That's the first thing I want to do. I don't want to be in centers. I learned and heard all the things about that in centers. So I did my research, my way of life. I studied it, and the first thing we picked out was PD. From PD, we went to manual. It was a cycler, and we went to in-center. I was only in there for a couple months. Then went to home hemo, and now transplant. So I got a few years underneath my belt. I'm still learning, and it's been a journey. If you want any information or you want to ask me any questions about dialysis, treatments, how was the transplant, the medication, you can contact me, Gonzo here, GONZOHERE@Comcast.net. Warrior to warrior. I know a lot of warriors are a little bit hesitant to say something to the nurses because the nurses don't actually know how the patient is feeling. This is one-on-one. So you want to have some questions answered. Just to shout out, you begin dialysis and you want to know how the body feels on the next stage machine, just let me know. I'm just here to educate all the warriors out there. And got right beside me, my right-hand side, his name is Tom.
Thank you, Eric. Yeah, so just wanted to go over a little bit of what Eric was just mentioning there about his experience. So when he mentions PE, so he's talking about peritoneal dialysis. That's when they do the dialysis in the peritoneum. So I just wanted to clarify that. So he's done the peritoneal dialysis, hanging bags. He's done the peritoneal dialysis cycler. That's what we do it at night. And he's also done the in-center dialysis, home hemos dialysis, as well as now transplant. So that's all 5 modalities he's been able to have experience with, and as he still learns more about the transplant, we're here supporting him and documenting the trail and his experience so that he can share that with you guys who have those type of questions for making decisions on where you or your loved one would go for their dialysis and what type they would like to have. And for those who don't know me, we welcome you to the E&T Show. Let's go home. My name is Tom. I'm a registered nurse. I've been in dialysis for about 29 years now, And I started out stocking the dialysis unit where I would get all the supplies, all the material from the dialysate, the bicarb, the dialyzers. And we'd put them on a big cart, roll them down the hospital hallways, and drop them off into the dialysis unit. So that was the place that I was assigned to for the supplies. And it was a very heavy load, as you can imagine, with all the bicarb and the solutions. And then I was asked to become a dialysis orderly. So the orderly was retiring, so I went ahead and put a transfer in. And so it was only after 4 months of doing stock that I became a dialysis orderly. So I did that for 6 months, where I go in early morning, 3:30, 4 o'clock, I was there making bicarb for the day. I'd go up, get the patients prepared and ready to come down to the dialysis unit that was housed in the same building. It was a hospital base. And then I'd help transfer away the patients and transfer them into the chair. And God forbid there was ever any emergencies, I was there with doing the emergency response with the team there. And so I did that, and that was about another 6 months, and then I became a dialysis technician. So I was trained one-on-one by a nurse, and I did that for 10 years, moved out to California, which is my home state, and where I was born and raised, and I went out there and I got certified as a hemodialysis technician. That was back before there was any mandate for certification. There's only a few states that there was mandated that you had to be certified as a dialysis technician, and California was one of the first. So I was certified there, worked for Presidians while I was out there in Mesa. A big shout out to the team out there, they're a great crew. And I started going to school, and it took me 10 years to get my nursing license. So I didn't come from a family of good blood or anything of that nature. My mom didn't graduate high school or didn't go to college. I was the first one ever in my family to go to college. And in 2004, I graduated as a registered nurse. And in 2006, I started my first business as a dialysis staffing agency company. And I did that for about a year and a half with a partner of mine, and then he passed away and choked on himself in a sandwich tragic accident. And I used to run Jersey, he ran PA, and then I partnered up with a local nephrologist, and we did that until about 2020, right around the pandemic, and then we split, and now we're in a new company where we're doing everything from teaching, staffing, marketing, sales, consulting, pharmaceuticals, we're grant carding licensees. So if you have a company out there and you're looking to improve your sales and marketing team, that's something that we can help you with. Just reach out to us at info@freemanhealthcareservices.com. That's info@freemanhealthcareservices.com. And like I said, we teach dialysis as well. So we teach it to families, we teach it to patients, we teach it to students who just want to learn about dialysis and get in the healthcare field. So it's a great entry point, a great way to break the barrier and get into healthcare. And like I said, when I moved out to California, listen, Presidians paid for my whole moving expenses. All I did is pick up the phone and tell them I was a technician, I moved to California, and boom, I had a job ready to go. So I didn't even do a personal interview until I got there in town, but they already paid for all my expenses and everything. So it was really, really amazing. So big shout out to Presidians for doing that and helping me with my career and my path. And, so I ended up, here we are today. Now we're doing our show. So we welcome you to the E&T Show. So please hit the like and the share button. And we are also live on YouTube today, Sharice?
Yes, we are.
So we're live on YouTube, so please subscribe over there. We have 100 subscribers over there, please. So that's what we ask for. And today, let's dip into it. We're going to talk about something that most, you're not going to hear it in your clinic, and most doctors aren't going to talk about it, and most patients won't talk about it. In fact, there's probably not a lot of people that will talk about it because it's one of those voodoo subjects that people don't want to talk about. So it's getting a lot of commotion out there on our advertising for today's show. So we're going to dip into it, and it's about being locked up while on dialysis and the experience. So, and this is coming first-hand knowledge. Just wanted to be completely transparent as always here. Everything that we share here is based on our experience, and it's not professional medical advice. It's what's worked for Eric and myself. And so what I'm about to tell you guys today is going to be my experience. And if you're watching this and you have experience as well, please go ahead, feel free to put it in the chat, your experience, where you worked at. If there's some value you want to add to the conversation, we look forward to things like that as well. So, and if you ever see our ads and you see a subject, please feel free to start emailing us some content on that, some questions you may have. And you can do that by sending it to info@primohealthcareservices.com, info@primohealthcareservices.com. And so, like I said, let's go ahead and let's jump into it. This information is going to be based off of my years of experience working in the prison, not being a prisoner, but being a professional employee there for one of the state prisons that we had, as well as my experience in working in the local dialysis facilities that brought inmates there as well. So,
all my years of doing dialysis treatment, that never even crossed my mind is how did the inmates receive the treatment until Tom told me he used to work in the center, and I was just, it was like a brain that just went off and said, duh, how does patient do get treatment in bars? So, I'm going to be asking Tom some questions, because, this topic is all about Tom's experience here. And he's just going to shed some light on it.
Well, Eric, you might have heard in the news, it was a few years ago, there was some big discussions about inmates that are on death row, and if they should be forced to donate their organs. So, that's something that's been a controversial topic for many years. And, we asked you guys, what is your opinion? Maybe we should put a poll out there. Should inmates be forced, that are on death row, be forced to donate their organs? So, there's some pros and cons to that. One, they're donors too. The con could be, if they create a violent crime, it could be, a controversial conversation about this person's carrying, this criminal's organ that killed my, or killed a family member of somebody or committed this horrible crime. So that's something that's worth discussing, as well as, do they have a right to do that as well?
So, do you know if the law hasn't changed yet about them?
Yeah, it's just always been controversial. They're trying to mandate it, which of course could be, violating some civil right to mandate, being an organ donor. But I've read some articles about a gentleman who's donated his whole body for science. He was very physically fit. Every part of his body checked out like perfect. And I know he was donating his body to science. And so I know he was successful at doing that. Except if I'm not mistaken, I might even read that in my nursing books.
Okay.
So, but my experience, just to jump right into it, is if you're arrested and you are in the county jail, then what happens is you are notifying the healthcare team there in regards to where you dialyze and how many days a week you need to have your dialysis treatment. So it's your right to have your dialysis treatment on time, on a schedule. And so what happens is we're notified in the clinic that you have been arrested and incarcerated, and that you'll be heading to the dialysis clinic if you're in the county jail that you normally go to. So if you're already an established patient, then you're going to be going to your dialysis center.
Okay. So what, they call the center to make the arrangement for the appointment for the patient?
Yeah, so what happens is, in our area, we're in New Jersey, so we have the sheriff department. So they'll call the dialysis unit, they'll find out what time we're scheduled to be here for the dialysis treatment, they show up. They show up with two sheriff officers normally, and the inmates there, and they'll show up together, all three of them. The inmate will be wearing an orange jumpsuit here locally. Will be handcuffed. They'll have chains on his ankles, and the handcuff chains.
Or is he in a different area or in the center, or is he just?
Sometimes the sheriff will ask us to do that. We don't necessarily have to accommodate that, but we understand the safety risks that could happen. So we do try to make it accommodating for them.
Okay.
And we do things too. So not only does the individual come in and he sits in the dialysis chair, but if you have a fistula or graft, obviously you don't want to be handcuffed together like that for the next 4 hours. So they do release the handcuffs, and we provide a chair for the sheriff officer to sit right there next to you. Some of them will sit there, and some of them will just go to the lobby, but they're constantly, there the whole time. They don't get up and leave. So it provides a safe atmosphere. Not that, most of us, as you guys know already, we build a relationship with a lot of patients while we're there. Listen, we see the warriors 3 times a week. They see us at least 3 times a week as well in the center. So, they're entitled to get their treatment.
So that's how it is in the county.
Yeah, so additionally, I want to add, they're there, being the sheriff officers are there the whole time, and I'm talking about even when they got good meals, one officer may get something where they'll have it delivered there. And that usually happens until either their time's up or they're sent over to the state prison.
We talk about meals when we get to meals.
So like the sheriff's officer, like lunch breaks and things like
Okay.
that. Just kind of covering the whole gist of everything, because some people may ask, well, what happens if the sheriff officer has to use the bathroom or has to, get a sandwich or something, their sugar's dropping and they need some food. Well, they have 2, and that's why they have 2. One will always cover while the other one, is doing his thing, or one will in the lobby. And a lot of times, just being transparent as always, they might be on their phone watching Netflix or something, while the patient's dialyzing right there. So, but, usually build a relationship with them. They're friendly. Like I said, we already have a relationship with the patient, so you don't really feel much more harm. It's more of an embarrassment. It's more of like, just the typical, cops putting sirens on, red, blue, clear lights, just like, hey, I'm the big clown of the day, So, that's kind of what you feel. You feel that internal thing. You messed up and you got caught, and so now you're in a bright orange jumpsuit, dialyzing in the center.
Is he getting transported by any means followed by the sheriff's department?
That's a great question there. So actually, they're transported in the squad car.
Okay.
So they're again, sheriff officers are bringing them in. There's also correction officers, COs will bring them in as well. That in the beginning used to always be sheriffs, and then towards the end, they transfer over to the correction officers. And once you go to the state prison, right? So that's if you're in the county jail. So once you're transferred to the state prison, that's a different ballgame. And here's like I used to work at a local state prison here in New Jersey, and we have a big dialysis center there. There's actually 9 stations at this particular location. Other locations like in say Trenton, the state capital of New Jersey, there is 3 stations there, so it wasn't as big. So if you're committing a crime and you're in the prison system, you're going to end up, and you're on dialysis, you're going to end up down at the state prison where I was at. And rare cases are in some of the other ones, but they are located throughout the state of New Jersey. They have, like I said, there's 2 or 3 stations there. And there's different dialysis companies. You're not going to find Fresenius there, DaVita there, those type of companies. It's actually Chardonnay is the name of one of the companies that manages the dialysis there, and also Horizon. Horizon manages the dialysis as well. And so there's some things that are different. A lot of things are different when you go to state prison. One is, as an employee, you have to get cleared by, your background check. You have to get cleared. You have to get an ID, photo ID. You cannot bring in your cell phone. You cannot bring in, a lunchbox and food that's, fully wrapped up. It has to be all clear bags. And again, like you said, you're getting a thorough background check on you.
So that was your main doing dialysis in that you didn't go to incentive. That was the primary job.
Yeah, so if your primary job is working at the state prison, these are things you gotta look out. And that's what I did. It's not like somebody goes from the center to the state prison. That's actually the position itself. Like you said, you work for Chardonnay or Horizon, and you're going in there and you're going through metal detectors.
All the protocols.
Yeah, like you're going through metal detectors. All your baggage, if you bring any purse or anything in, it should be a clear bag. It's going through the X-ray machine. You are even going to the doors. When one door opens, you got to step in. That door, that gate's got to shut before the other one opens.
Okay.
So, and you talk about those clicks and those clacks and those clanks and those jail bars, and you hear it. The locks click. You're like, oh man, what's going on here? And we walk the path just like the officers do, the COs do, to get out to the field. We have to walk to a medical building, so we walk through the yard to the medical building. You're, right there exposed to the inmates as well when you walk through. But it's pretty safe, but there's always that what if moment. You hit the medical building and you're going upstairs, there's inmates coming downstairs, and you're in the population with them. So it's something to think about if you're looking into, working at the prison. But
well, the reason why I asked that, because all the protocols and all the background checks they have to do, no other nurse can take your place going through that jail because you didn't go through all the background checks.
That's right. So it creates a huge problem if the staff are unable to show up. So, and that's let's a little bit further down in the discussion when we talk about it, but I'll share it here. So remember, if you're supposed to show up to the prison to do the dialysis for the inmates, and you don't show up, and something happens to that inmate, that's a potential lawsuit against you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they didn't get their dialysis treatment because you didn't show up.
Okay.
So it's very, very vital that you do. And, and that's kind of like some of the cons of working there. Another one is, if supplies are missing, there's a whole lockdown that happens, the place gets searched, it's a big to do. So, you want to make sure everything's always accounted for. And so what I mean by that is, like I said, when you walk into the dialysis unit, the unit's going to be empty. The one I worked at, they had a water room that was there that had a lock on it, so you had to, get the CO to unlock the door for you.
So the CEO is the only person that has the keys to that?
Yeah, the CO is one that has the keys for that. And then we had the dialysis unit there. And the advantage is, for those who are looking for a little different pace of dialysis, is everything is controlled. So it's like the best controlled environment. If you're one of those controlled people, like, this is a great place for you, because the inmates come in one at a time. They come in, they sit in the chair, you put them on, and then the next one comes in. And that happens depending on how many staff. There are 3 staff, and boom, one gets one, one gets one, one gets one. And those patients are treatments initiated, and then they bring the next group of 3 in, or 1 in, depending. And and it's one CO. At the time I was there, one CO is overlooking the whole dialysis unit the whole time. They're always there with you. But before they even come in, this is where it gets tricky. And this is something you want to write down. And if you're taking notes, this is super important. You do a needle count with the CO prior to anybody even coming into the building. The nurse does. So the nurse and the CO will go over how many needles there are, and then you have to do a count and keep track of what medications you're giving throughout the day and how many needles you're going to use throughout the day. So it's a little bit of a pain in the neck to do, but let me tell you something, it creates safety, and it also makes you a superior nurse because, or technician, because you know why? You are actually able to predict what you're going to use for the day, and prediction equals professional. So when you can predict something, that's when your role has turned to you're a true professional, where you can actually start predicting your future and how things are going to flow for the day. You hear about it all the time with sports athletes, how they've seen things and predicted things before it happened. So it's kind of like an amazing thing that happens when you're able to do that, and it's a great skill that you pick up. It's helped me so much. And after I left the prison system, and I worked in a dialysis clinic, and I knew what needles I needed. I could just look at the medication. I'm going to need 3 needles here. I need this here, and you just start planning the whole thing out and predicting it. But the drawback to it is, Eric, if you happen to have an inaccurate count, the whole place is shut down. The whole jail system is shut down until that needle is found.
Even you're stuck in there too.
Oh yeah, we're all stuck in there. You can't leave. You cannot leave if your count is off. So, and what will happen if you don't find that needle? The chief gets involved, and an instant report is written up, and it's a big problem. You do that a couple times, you're out the door.
Oh, you looking for the needles too?
Oh yeah, we're all looking for the needles. We got to find that needle. We got to make sure our count is right. Make sure we got the medication that we said we were given for that day, and make sure they did get it. Otherwise, your count's off. So the count is super important, and it can hold you up or go home. And so again, remember, prison work may not be best for you if you're one of those individuals that needs your cell phone all the time, because you can't bring your cell phone into the prison.
So I'm assuming there's no TV in the last.
Yeah, there's no TV there in the dialysis unit. It's so the environment. We can talk a little bit about the environment, but let me just finish up and say again: there's no cell phones. You cannot bring your cell phone in there. So if you're an individual who needs to be contacted, you've got kids that call you when they get home from school, that's not the place for you. As far as
before you go on that subject, let's go back to square one. You go in there, you and the guard take the inventory of everything in there,
right?
And the patient, one patient at a time goes in there.
That's correct.
That patient up.
That's correct.
All the meds that patient needs are right there. If he needs iron,
Well, we keep them locked up still.
Okay.
We still keep them locked up, but we know that like Wednesdays are iron day. So Wednesdays we're going to be for right? So we know like we have 9 patients, we're going to use 9 needles.
Before you hook that patient up, you need a doctor's order to do that. You have to.
So it's just like a outpatient where there's an order already, there's a prescription, a dialysis prescription already there. So the doctor comes there once a month, just like outpatient. So you're going to see the nephrologist there. They have a social worker there. They have a dietitian there. They have psychiatrists there. You see everybody there. It's probably it's a really good thing for. I hate to say it like this, but for those patients who just cannot be compliant, it's a great place to be because they will make you compliant. Okay. And so they control how much food you get, that you're on a renal diet. Now, there's things that, of course, inmates can do to, get candies or sweets or things like that, or food that they shouldn't be getting. But ideally, it's great because they really limit your float restrictions. They have if you need your medications and you're about to eat, you're going to go to the medical building and you'll get your, where they dispense the pills and medications. You'll stand in line, you'll get your medications, and then you'll be able to take that with your foods. As an employee when we work there, speaking of food, we actually eat the same food that the inmates are cooking and making for the CO, so that's how we eat. So that's a perk because you actually get free food, but you're trusting that that the chefs there are aren't putting anything into the food, but it's a pro and con, pro and con.
Now, the shifts, how many shifts are there in prison?
So we did 2 shifts, and we did the 2 shifts 3 days a week. As they got busier, there was 6 days a week, but it's a different crew that were going. You got to add on more staff, to do those other patients. So, but so as far as entertainment, here's the thing, and this can work on your nerves too. If you're a healthcare professional and you just like to go in and dialyze and have peace, there's no peace in the prison system. You're going to hear a lot of foul language, a lot of cursing. You're going to hear everybody's innocent. Everybody's like an attorney, so they're always giving advice to everybody else. My experience, which is something that we didn't talk about yet, but I actually went into the prison on my first day, and I knew 5 people from the street.
Really, in the prison?
In the prison. So, here's what I tell all you healthcare professionals out there. Listen, you don't know who's been in prison and who hasn't. And there could be somebody in your dialysis center right now that's either been in prison or is selling drugs or prostituting or doing something. And, you're going to see them and not even know it. And when I went to prison and dialyzed there, I saw 5 individuals from the outpatient clinics that I had no idea they were into some craziness.
Wow.
So, so when you talk about safety and security, you're just as exposed outpatient as you are in the prison system. So you just don't know. But the thing that I've always done there, and I'm sure the viewers have seen this, I always treat everybody with respect. So, I respect everyone. I'm very compassionate. I care a lot about individuals. And to me, it doesn't matter if you committed a crime. When I cut you, you're going to bleed the same color as me, right? You cut me, I'm going to bleed the same color as you. And at the end of the day, it's all about just being respectful and caring for the individual. I mean, everybody goes through something in life. There's things that happen. We all aren't right. We do things that are wrong from time to time. We sin, right? But at the end of the day, you're still human, just like me. And so that's how I've always looked at it. And again, I respect everybody, every inmate that's ever been in there, no matter what their crimes were. There's a lot of individuals got issues and stuff. And, and this is, my experience has been a few years ago, by the way. So it's a little bit different now, I think, for a lot of individuals who are on dialysis because there's more options. But when you're told you can't, put your kids on the bus, continue working, can't pay for your mortgage payment anymore, and all these stressors are hammering on you. And, of course, you're angry at the system. You're angry as a person in general. And some people can't handle anger, and some people need to, do things on the side to make money, and eventually you get caught. And, I don't blame them. I just say, hey, we're going to make the best of the situation that we're in right now. So, but I will tell you, if you're one of those individuals that like the peace and quietness, going to the prison system to work, you're going to be surrounded by a lot of people that are cursing. They're all innocent, and you're probably going to know somebody from the street that's locked up in there.
So they're sitting back getting their treatment after their treatment. Usually taken out. Does that particular inmate get churched by the CEO to make sure he's not carrying that before he goes into the population?
No, so when they're done, right, because eyes have been on them the whole time. So when they're done and if they're holding their sights, they stop bleeding, or their catheter is done, right? So they'll end up going back to general population, just walking right out on their own.
Okay.
Now, if there's issues where you need medical help, where your fistula, your graft is clotted, right? You might have a question like, hey, what happens if my fistula or graft is clotted? What do I do? Do they have a facility there that declots it? No, they actually send you out. They have in New Jersey, they're contracted with a hospital that is in Trenton, and that hospital is only they have a whole floor dedicated to inmates.
Oh,
Yeah, so that's where they'll keep them on that floor. You know, there's security up there, and so you're actually in the hospital, a regular hospital, a community hospital, and all of your medical care will be done there. So even, the clotting and access will be done there as well. So they don't send you out to like a regular vascular institute, they send you to a location that's specific for that. Some other things that are kind of bizarre that happens there is, it is a world within a world. What I mean by that is, that you'll hear a bell that chimes. When that bell chimes, that means somebody passed. That doesn't mean that it was a dialysis patient or just in the jail system. That's what that means at this particular location. Also,
did you learn that from the inmates?
yeah, just from being in there, and inmates tell you. I mean, inmates are great. They'll tell you everything. They'll tell you how the whole place runs. You'll be amazed by the things they can do. They can turn a piece of paper into a weapon.
Right.
You look and see them. They're grabbing washcloths, and these washcloths they're turning to other things. They're taking the alcohol from the alcohol pads, and they're making liquor from the alcohol pads. They're doing some pretty creative stuff. When you have nothing but time to sit there and think, you'll be surprised how creative you can be.
Okay.
So,
and I just learned by reading one of the statements that they actually do PD.
yes. So they do PD in prison. Now, I don't know a whole lot about it, but I know that they do PD there. I just don't have a lot of information on it. But like I said, there's a whole medical facility there as well. That dispenses your medications. If you have a broken foot or something like that, it's all being handled there. It's just some of the bigger invasive stuff where they're going to send you outside into the hospital.
And who does the water checkups?
So that's the dialysis staff will do that.
Oh,
It's
good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now here's something that happens that is pretty unique. When we're done the dialysis, they actually have inmates that will clean the dialysis facility. So that's a job that they have, and they get paid for it. It's not a lot of money, but it keeps them busy, keeps them active. So sometimes, inmates you'll see them in there mopping the dialysis floor and sweeping it.
Yeah, when you say cleaning, they actually sterilize the whole place?
Yeah, they're wiping everything down with bleach. And like you say, it's a very good experience to work in the prison system because you're going to learn a lot. It's really going to up your skills. It's going to keep you on your toes. You just gotta realize that you have a boundary and you can't cross that boundary when you're in the prison system. You don't want to do favors for anybody outside of the prison. You don't want to call a family member for the inmate. All that kind of stuff can get you in trouble. So that's why they do these background checks. They want to make sure you don't have any family members or anybody that's been arrested that you're close or tight to that can you can jump in there and use that opportunity to help them out and help them escape or do business for them or any criminal activity that could potentially happen outside of prison.
So are they checking your credentials on a monthly basis or a weekly basis to make sure you still?
Every time we go in there, we're checked. Meaning we have to show our ID, but as far as background checks now, I don't know how often they do that. But, we're in there. You get a state issued ID clearance with with the name tag from the company that you work for. So, but all that background check's done. It takes a little bit to get in. Different states are a little faster than other states. So when I go to Pennsylvania, their clearance is a lot faster than New Jersey. New Jersey, it took a couple of weeks to get clearance through. As far as pay is concerned, I know a lot of healthcare professionals are tuning into this, and if you are, we just want to say thank you for joining us on the E&T Show. Let's go home. Eric and I are here talking about locked up and having dialysis, what that experience is like. And so I wanted to share, just like I want you to share, our video and our content. And hit the like button, and if you're watching our YouTube video, please hit the subscribe button. We provide value and content like this every week. And so, as far as pay is concerned, as you probably would expect, healthcare professionals, you are getting paid at a higher rate. And I'll just give you a little dollar number, just to give you an idea. So normally, the per diem rate could be about $40 an hour for a registered nurse. Just a few years ago. But when you work in the prison, you can actually get about $42 to $44 an hour with some paid time off. So now it's just a part-time gig. So it really wasn't bad. You kind of got some benefits with it as well. So
Is that because of the risk you taking?
the risk, as well as, again, like you said, you could be on lockdown, and that can last an hour. So when you think you're leaving at 5 o'clock, you might not get out of there until 7, 8, 9.
Gotcha.
Whenever the lockdown is up, like you said, it's a world within a world. There's things that happen in there. You got, some people just don't want to cooperate and follow the rules. And, there's punishment that happens. You got inmates that fight each other. We had inmates that were fighting, and they would, try to pull the other guy's lines out by using.
Oh, you talking about incentive?
Yeah, dialysis. If you got two people sitting next to each other, they don't like each other, they could be fighting, and I've seen it where the one guy was trying to use his foot to yank the guy's needle out.
Does the guard try to make sure that doesn't happen to place another inmates?
Yeah. If we know some beef's coming down, we start separating. So, and in fact, I'll tell you a situation that happened. There was one inmate, there's a lot of inmates that do this, but always talked and running his mouth. And, before you know it, that guy got hit, he was punched, and his jaw was broken. And, there was a CO there that rewarded him, give him a piece of fried chicken. So, it's a world within a world. Things happen, and it's all about, your behavior and whose side you're on. And,
Yeah, there's a lot of politics.
yeah, a lot of politics up in there.
Okay.
So, but as far as the dialysis, like I said, everything's, it's accounted for when you go in. You're doing your count. Patients come in one at a time. There's a lot of noise during your treatment. It's not a dull moment. You're not jumping on the internet, on a computer, looking up things. Any computer documentation you have is on a desk, and the desk is flat, and it has a cutout in it. And down below is where your monitors are at, so that's where you're doing all your documentation. So it's not accessible to any inmates. There's a lot of privacy that's happening in there. Some of the things that we would do, just to kind of know who we're working with, is we would go to the state website, and you can look up somebody's name, and you can see why they are incarcerated, what crime they're committed and found guilty of. And we would know about who's the murderer, who's the drug dealer, who's the one that was doing prostitution and so forth. And so who the pimp was, that's what I look for, the pimp, who the pimp is in the deal. And you kind of know, like I said, you'd be surprised who you're dealing with in your center now and who's been locked up. And even, I'm going to put this out there, even we've had former chief of police dialyzed in the center, and some of the things that they can't do, for example, is bring a gun in. So, every officer carries their off-duty pistol with them. You can't do that in the dialysis center, and you get called out on it, and it can be a big to-do.
Right.
So, and again, I understand their position, because, like you said, you might be dialyzing in a clinic where there's somebody who's known to be a criminal.
Or inmate there or something.
Yeah, inmate. You can imagine if you're the former chief or a sergeant lieutenant or any officer, anybody in law enforcement, You might have arrested these individuals, and next thing you know, you're sitting there dialoguing with them, and they could have, they could be up to no good, and they want to retaliate. So these are all things that you got to worry about. And like I said at the start out on our show, this is not things that you're going to hear in your center, and people are not going to talk about it. And therefore, that's one of the reasons why we bring this information to you today.
Well, I got an important question.
Sure.
I know that the inmates, once they get arrested in the county or state prison, they belong to the county or the state. Are they allowed to refuse treatment?
Yeah, so they can refuse treatment, but eventually they're going to end up, in a hospital if they keep refusing, and they'll force the dialysis on, or it ends up being a whole psych evaluation got to get done, and if they're suicidal, things of that nature. There's a lot of inmates, they have this whole grieving phase that you go through, and sometimes they can be suicidal. So it's definitely a great question. Speaking of questions,
Well, my understanding is, maybe you can correct me wrong, no inmate that I know
yep.
of can be on the transplant list for a transplant. And I think about that. If there's an inmate.
Well, I don't really know that question, to be honest with you.
Well, I read it somewhere, and the thing that I read is, if they are convicted of a crime and they spend time on the entire county, if they are on the transplant list, it ends right there until they actually get out of the prison. And it starts, I don't know if it starts from square one again, or it starts from right to get back off that.
Very interesting. I did not know that. But I can see how that could be, because obviously they don't want to spend taxpayer dollars transplanting somebody who's in jail. That there's another side of that argument. I mean, they're human, just like us.
Right.
So it's definitely a great discussion. But I wanted to, speaking of discussion, Shreese, we have some questions there or comments that we can jump on.
Yes, we do have a lot of comments. So some of our audience are worked in correctional dialysis before as well, and they're just sharing their experiences. Like one person asked, Stephanie Silver, she asked, how many chairs are there in the unit? And one of the audience said, which is Stacy Marie and Dawn Gruy, Stacy said, we have small units of 1 station all the way up to around 24 station units.
24?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a big population there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is the one that I worked at, we had 9 stations, and like I said, so there's other dialysis facilities that were in the prisons, and they would have like 1 to 3 just in case if there's an inmate there. But the bulk of dialysis patients always went to this 1 state prison if they were on dialysis. So they try to coordinate that so you can go there. Now the reason why you want to go there is if you got beef with another dialysis patient, then they keep you in a different location. And it could be gang, or you had gang members that were involved in shootings, and they end up losing their kidney because of the shooting, and then they end up in prison. So absolutely, yeah. But 24 stations, that's a big place, and that's a lot of controlling that you have to do in that location. I mean, they have COs that are there, and like I said, it's a very controlled environment. Everything is like one at a time, everything's counted for, and you have to really be on your toes when you're there. Because those, there's inmates that are waiting for that slip up.
Do you always have the same CO down there?
Same CO there all the time, unless they're off or on vacation.
Gotcha.
And let's see what else. Dawn said it varies. We have units with 20 plus chairs, some with just 1 chair. So similar to Stacy. And Donna also said we have 10 stations, 2 shifts, 3 days a week.
Okay. 3 shifts, wow. That's another big population right there. So, we stuck at 2 shifts. Now, there's things you gotta be worried about too, because where our location was, the inmates can see your vehicle that you drive up in. And again, and this goes back to, your safety outside of prison. And, there's things that can happen because, hey, they see your car, they see your license plate, you like to run your tags, they'll know where you live. There could be some intimidation that happens if you don't fit well with some of the inmates. I mean, that's the whole thing. They really want you to fit well with inmates and with the COs, but not too well where you're buddy-buddy with everybody because that can get you in trouble. But, you gotta be careful. I mean, we know of a CO, this is a true story. There was a CO, had no criminal background history at all, and ended up getting a job as a CO, went to school, got a job as a CO. Here, he was a high-ranking gang member, and was there smuggling drugs into the place. And he went through the whole CO background and everything, and it was a big investigation, a big thing that happened there. I don't know the outcome of it. I know that individual person his family had some money, and they were able to get him out of jail. But they came in, they arrested him, and again, I don't know what the outcome was, but I know he had some money to get out of jail. So, and there was some question about where that money was coming from. If it was from the drug sales or it was from the family that had money. So, but that was, that's how involved, the gangs and all can get inside there. And, again, here's something else you got to think about as a healthcare professional. If you are sitting there and you're dialyzing somebody in the center and you mess up one little thing, remember, they got nothing better to do but to think and to sue you. So, there's a high probability of being sued. If you mess something up, maybe you don't put the needle in right, you infiltrate, you got a bruise, it's damaged the arm, and then all of a sudden they got to get a new access put in. That could be a potential lawsuit. So you got to be careful, especially like for me, when I went in, I had a healthcare company already. So, I always saw myself as a target if they knew that I had, financial ability, to pay out on a lawsuit.
So that's something, a paper you had a sign saying you were liable for any mishaps inside this jail.
No, but it's their right. It's everybody's right, to sue if they want to. So again, like I said, if you don't show up to dialyze them, they don't get their treatment, and then something happens to them, you're liable for it, right? If the state's liable, you're liable. So they got to have a backup plan in there, and if they don't, then you need to show up, and something happens to that person, the family can sue you. But they're always looking to sue somebody. So you got to really be careful as a healthcare professional when you're working in prison. And a lot of them, they have access to law books, and so they study it, they know it. I mean, some inmates are, like community paralegal guys. I mean, they freaking know their stuff, and you'll know who they are. They'll help other inmates out in regarding to helping them out with their cases and stuff. They always give advice, and of course, like you said, they're paid for one way or another within the prison system.
Yeah, do you know in different states, big facilities would have the females and male inmates in different pods? Do they show up on one center?
Yeah, so here in New Jersey, we have different locations. So male populations in certain prisons and female populations in different prisons. So they never mix. There's never a mix of it at all. It's just different locations.
Okay.
So now I never worked in the female prison. Maybe a viewer has, but I heard it's a lot worse working in a female prison than it is in the male prison.
Really?
So yeah, I don't know to be true, but that's just what I've always heard, that it was a lot worse working there. So some of the women are pretty harsh versus men. But I don't know. I mean, I always say treat everybody with respect. Respect when they come back to you. So you just got to do the right thing. And what else we got there for questions, Reese?
No questions so far, but we have a lot of comments. So, let me just find one. So Stacy said some federal institutions are very active with transplantation.
Oh, that's good to know. Good to know. Love to hear that because it's good to get them transplanted if they can. That's good. That's good.
Yes. And she also said that's correct. Most states have designated prisons where any inmate coming into the systems will be housed. Some states have one. New Jersey has several.
That's right. So there are multiple locations. Again, it's a matter of, and it could be as much as, even if an inmate has a problem with the CO, like they'll try to ship that inmate out to a different location. The last thing they want is any beef in the system. They try to force it. Things are a little harder now because we have social media all over. And you'll see there's cell phones that are smuggled into the prison system, but they shouldn't be. Again, that's just why, in my opinion, the best thing you can do is just respect everybody there, no matter who they are. Just respect them, and don't create no trouble for yourself because it can spiral out of control. If they don't like you, they want to get your plate number, they register you. I mean, they can use your phone and zoom in on the phone and see your plate number. They can take pictures, send it to a family member, send it to somebody who wants to do harm to you outside. There's a lot of things that can happen there, and you just got to be careful and just respect. But as far as the environment, again, everything is locked up. Even when you do your medications, all your medications are in a locked cabinet. So those keys are held by one of us or the CEO to get access to them. Usually, in the beginning of the day, the CEO has it. We get the keys, and then we can start unlocking. We do a complete med count. Make sure all the medications are there. We do a needle count with the CEO, and then at the end of the day, we do the same thing. And it's just very important to make sure that all the counts come out right. And as far as the staffing, I mean, like I said, the prison could be a great place to work at. If you got the best, you got a great crew as well, especially doing like how we were in the 9-station unit, because you kind of like watch each other's back all the time, and you know how we all work. I know I'm not going to get somebody from this facility all the way up here in North Jersey to come and work here like you would in an outpatient clinic. Like the people that are there all have special clearance to be there, and you see them all the time. You build a relationship, you build a working relationship with them, as well as your inmates as well. So, to me, overall, I think it was the best experience. It really helped me grow as an individual. It definitely broke through my glass ceiling, my lid, and I think if you're looking to do something outside of original standard dialysis, I think correctional nursing is a good experience for you. Definitely.
Nice. Very good topic today. Very interesting.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. We're the way we came up with this actually was we started thinking about all the other topics that we've done, what's been discussed, what hasn't been discussed, as well as what does somebody want to know in regards to dialysis. And one of the topics is, well, what happens if you get locked up? What happens if you're at a bar and you mess up, you DWI, and I can't say DWI, but what if you get, I don't know, whatever, you commit some crime and you're locked up for a couple of weeks, what do you do? Right. Well, we should have a topic and discussion about that. And that today is why, we brought to you this topic specifically on the E&T show. Let's go. Streets, I'm just about done with my discussion unless we got some viewers there that would like to share their comments or have some questions.
Yes, I'd like to share their comments.
All right.
All right. So Don said, for the most part, the inmates are very respectful and protective of the dialysis staff.
Okay. Nice.
I agree with that. Listen, they know we're there helping them.
Right.
They know we're there helping them. We're not there to do any harm to them. I actually want to say, I really believe that the dialysis healthcare workers were actually probably some of the most compassionate I've seen there, with that clientele, because we always treat every patient with respect, and we see them 3 times a week, and you can't help to get close to somebody when you see them 3 times a week. It doesn't matter what, every person, even if they're evil, has a little bit of good in them, right? I'm a firm believer of a yin yang, and you can't have all darkness, you can't have all light. And it's always been my style to find that positive in every single patient. I don't care if you're the most angriest person in the world, if I want to dialyze you, to know you, to meet you, so that I can gain that positive from you. Because everybody has it, everybody has it. I never met anybody who hasn't, and I met some pretty upset people and some very challenging patients. And I'm telling you, I always say, there's always a little bit of good in somebody. And when you find it, you kind of it's almost like the anger is almost like a wall. And if I know you've got a wall up, I'm going to hang out on that wall until I can jump through it. I want to be like that water, just break it through the rock. I'm going to keep there at you. You're not going to push me away. I'm going to constantly be there. I'm going to constantly, hear your anger, feel it, and eventually I'm going to get to that good piece of it. I always have. It's been a great experience. What else you got, Trace?
Yes. Stacy also said corrections, of course, has its complexities, but overall it can be a very rewarding career, especially as a dialysis nurse. After 19 years, I have never felt unsafe working into or working at a facility.
Absolutely. I mean, the security's tight there. And like I said, you respect everybody, you can have a beef, And it's a controlled environment. And before home dialysis was so popular, listen, that was a space where every patient had, the best weight gains, the best labs, because their lifestyle is so patterned that you can predict their outcomes with their medications and their labs and fluid intake and stuff. And you have time to educate them.
She also said some states, females and females are dialyzed in the same facility.
Females and males?
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
And then Dawn said some prisons allow the dialysis nurse managers to carry in their cell phones, as well as some facilities do not do needle counts, and some do not do counts with COs.
Okay. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense to me why they would do it. So I would prefer that they did versus they didn't. Because listen, at the end of the day, an inmate, if they were really evil, they could just whip their needle out and use it as a weapon. But the outcome of that is not going to be pretty for that inmate. I'm going to tell you, these guys that get a beat down, Like it's, you learn quick. So everybody kind of turns their head, and when it's happening, it's like I said, that guy that broke that guy's jaw. That was, his reward is to get a piece of chicken. Right. You get punished. Right. So that was fried chicken from the outside that the CEO brought in, not something cooked inside the facility.
Politics.
Yeah, listen, it's creating order for them. That's their style. I don't really necessarily agree with that kind of style, and I do like a hard work environment. But one that's results driven and one that holds you accountable. That's what I prefer. Yes.
Amanda asked, do they only hire nurses in prisons or techs too?
Say it again.
Amanda asked, do they only hire nurses in prisons or techs too?
No, so it's a great question, Amanda. Thank you. We actually had technicians and nurses there. So, and again, it was our ratio in New Jersey is the 1 to 3 for a technician, and for nurses, it's 1 to 9. So we actually had our administrator who was a nurse, and then myself as a nurse. So I would do the meds and assessments, and then our technicians would carry the patient load. And sometimes, there might only be 2 technicians and myself. So I have 3, plus I have my other 6, which are the 2 technicians' patients, because they can only have 3. But it wasn't a huge unit, so we weren't fatigued after walking all day, the 2 shifts, getting the meds and assessments of the patients and dialyzing your arm. Like I said, everything's controlled, so it's very easy for a nurse to have their 3 plus handle 6 more on top of it. But the technicians were there, and for us, we had a great guy that was a technician. He was a former Marine, and again, it just goes into just helping that peace of mind. I mean, the administrator is a good friend of mine as well, so he was former Army, so we felt protected. We knew we had each other's back after that anything ever happened. Things got crazy up in there. We knew we were surrounded by some great people that can definitely support us, and it ended up turning out that a lot of us that work there all came from the clinics, that were just tired of working for, the big companies, you guys know the companies. So, but just tired of working for these big companies. We wanted to change, wanted to do something else where we were respected a little bit more, and got paid what we were entitled to. So that was a big moving piece for us. But yeah, technicians, LPNs is a good place for them to go to as well. They do accept LPNs and RNs and technicians.
So with that, Stacy said, if you're watching out there and are interested or curious about correctional dialysis, there are also a lot of positives.
There's a lot of
positives.
Yes.
A lot of positives.
A lot of positives. Again, the pay is great. It's a niche. So, again, you can't just take somebody from a facility far away or a different location and bring them in. So you kind of have that job security there. It pays really well. And, you do get to build a great relationship with a lot of the CEOs, even with the inmates. Like I said, I see 5 of them from the street. I had no problem with them in the centers when I was dialyzing. It's just a matter of respect. There's great people out there. So it's definitely a good experience. You learn and you grow a lot when you work there, and you overcome that fear. A lot of people have fear working in prison, especially some of the females. They have fear about it, being harassed and working in a male prison, things like that. And it just goes down to the respect.
And then just a shout out to Dialysis Diva. She said, I do home hemodialysis with Next Stage for the past 11 years, on dialysis for 32 years.
Oh, great. Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. That's definitely somebody great experience there. Another good individual. Thank you, Eva, for reaching out to us. Because that many years of experience, you've been around, you've seen what I've seen. And you experienced it on a warrior level. That's pretty impressive. Love to know what you're doing to have that kind of success for all the years. That's pretty remarkable as well. Yeah. 32 years, that's a long time. Mm-hmm.
And she also shared on a comment in a different post, when I was in center, we had a guy that was in prison and he would come to the clinic to get his treatment. That was back in 1999. He had cuffs on his legs and was cuffed to the chair in the ISO room. He was always nice to me. They must do it different now.
Okay. Yeah. So we never had anybody handcuffed to the chair because the COs were there. There was a discussion. I will say this: there was a discussion because they would say, I can either leave the handcuffs on, or you're going to be respectful and we'll take them off. And they would even ask us, what do you prefer? No, just take the stuff off. They leave the ones on the ankles on, but they keep the other, they keep them unhandcuffed for their dialysis. But you know, again, these are guys, you know, these are guys and girls that we've, ladies that we've, you know, been dialyzing for years, and then one day they're showing up in an orange jumpsuit, you know, so it's not like, you know, they're just a stranger that popped in and you don't have a history or relationship with them. So, but it's, you know, I worked at so many different places that had inmates that came in from the county jail, and, you know, it's always something different. Always something different with them. But at the end of the day, the sheriff's officers and the COs are always there. You know, some would ask for privacy. Some would ask, like you mentioned, an isolation room. Of course, for us, an isolation room would only be used for that scenario if it wasn't used for isolation prior. Otherwise, there's some protocols that have to take place to use that isolation room. So if you had somebody who had hepatitis B in there, you don't want to put an inmate in there without having the place sterile and very clean. And it's not just a general cleaning, it's a really deep cleaning that has to take place. And you can't even have the same machine, those machines been bleached. And, you know, there's a big protocol that we have to put in isolation if it's been used for isolation before. Otherwise, you know, you kind of put them out in a corner or off to the side or something like that is not a problem to do with the coordination. And, you know, for New Jersey, it's the charge nurse's responsibility to do the patient scheduling. So that would always fall onto the charge nurse.
And then Evelyn Greenfield said, thank you for this very educational. And Donna said, thank you for recognizing corrections.
Thank you. Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you guys for joining us on the E&T show. We appreciate everybody joining us as we come live every Friday or Saturday. I think lately we've been doing Saturdays, so we try to get a post out there, letting you guys know when we're going live. Just go ahead and join the Facebook group, and we'll bring you some amazing content next week as well. But thank you for joining the E&T show. Let's go home. Let's go home. My name is Tom. I'm a dialysis nurse for 29 years. Worked in all levels, 163 dialysis clinics and counting. And, you know, you can reach me, info@cremohealthcareservices.com, info@cremohealthcareservices.com. If you're interested in learning dialysis, we teach dialysis as well. And we teach that over the internet as well as in person. So feel free to reach out to us, info@cremohealthcareservices.com, info@cremohealthcareservices.com. And the final thing I'll say is if you are in need of a dialysis care partner or your family member, we have that ability to help you as well. And if you're traveling, we can help you. Just like how we helped Eric when he needed dialysis care partner, we can jump in, we can travel with you if you want to go to, you know, California, or you want to go to Israel, or wherever you want to go, we have the ability to help you with a care partner. And even if you want to go home and have dialysis and you need help having that conversation with your dialysis clinic, we'd love to have that support for you and help guide you getting home. So we're strong believers of the quality of life that you have as a home dialysis patient, as well as we know that you're going to have less medications, less strict diet, and you know it's going to get your freedom and your control back. So there's nothing greater than having the ability to dialyze with your family, friends, and pets.
That's the reason why we do this show on Saturday, to get people knowledge about home therapy can be done.
Home therapy, dialysis, things that you're not going to hear out in the facilities. I'm even thinking about our topic next week already, Sharice. We should talk about being pregnant while on dialysis.
Good one, yeah.
So there's a lot of individuals, you know, we have the abortion laws that have been changed. You know, there's a lot of, you know, discussions and questions about, I'm on dialysis, can I still get pregnant?
Right.
We should have a conversation about that next week. Until then, Sharice, do you have a comment, a question, or any what's the word I'm looking for, Shrees? Any advertisement piece out there that you want to, events, that's the word I'm looking for. Any events coming up that we're participating in? And remember, guys, you can always go back and check out our videos prior that we've done. If you like the content value that we delivered to you today, please go back and check out some other videos. It's our goal to kind of shorten them down a little bit, just because we know your time is valuable, and we want to make sure that we get right to the point with a lot of this content as well. So as time goes on. What was that, Shrees?
I guess we'll see you next Saturday.
Next Saturday.
Yes.
Awesome. All right, until then, we appreciate you joining us on the E&T Show.
Let's go home.
Special thanks to Shrees, co-founder, putting this together with the lighting, the camera, the fireplace, this new environment that we're in. And we look forward to seeing you guys next time. Thanks to everyone who's out there, who's a healthcare professional. Thank you for the warriors that are staying committed and showing up to your treatments every week. We're thinking about you every time that we can't make it. We want to make sure that we can be a good influence for you guys as well. And we push ourselves to show up. Because first rule of success is
Always show up.
just show up. Just show up. Even if it's an hour treatment, man, just show up and just do it. Right? It's gonna benefit you in the long run. So with that, we will see you next week on the E&T Show.
Let's go.
Let's go home.
Hey, what are you doing in there?